A very warm and cheerful morning to each one of you present here. I'm Gurleen, a PhD student at Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering, and your MC for the day. I, on behalf of Graduate Student Society, would like to welcome you all for the NUS edition of 3-minute thesis competition. We know that a 80,000 word thesis would take around 9 hours to present. But would all of you be able to present and explain your thesis in 3 minutes? Yes, that is the challenge for the day. It can be with or without using a single slide. And we will find that thoroughly through today's event, which is 3-minute thesis competition. So 3-minute thesis competition celebrates the exciting research conducted by students around the world. It is open to PhD students and challenges participants to present their research in just 180 seconds in an engaging form that can be understood by an intelligent audience with no background in the research area. This experience and exercise develops presentation skills, research, and academic communication skills, which also supports the development of research students' capacity and capability to explain their work effectively. This concept was developed by the University of Queensland in 2008. 3MT has evolved since then from 160 students in University of Queensland in 2008 to 600 universities across 65 countries in 2018. There are currently 3 categories, which is University of Queensland competition, Trans-Tasman, and international competition. The NUS 3MT competition is generally organized by Graduate Student Society and is currently in its 4th year now. This year, we have the following faculties joining us: Faculty of Engineering, Faculty of Science, LKY School of Public Policy, Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, School of Medicine, NUS Graduate School of Integrative Sciences and Engineering, School of Business, and more. So the winners of this competition will be winning the following cash prizes. Winner will get $500, first runner-up $300, second runner-up $200, third runner-up $150, and we also have a People's Choice Award, for which we'll be doing an open voting in this auditorium today. So if you want to win the prize, maybe you can dial up your friends and ask them to come over and vote for you. So the selected winners will also get an opportunity to compete in the Singapore 3MT competition and international competitions like Asia Pacific 3MT competition in Brisbane, Australia, Universitas 21 3MT competition, and McDonald's Symposium in Beijing, China. Apart from the prizes for the winners, we also have lucky draw for the audience. So all of you will get a coupon like this. I think most of you will have that. So one of our volunteers will come and take the half from you, and then we'll put them in a lucky draw in front of you, and we'll pick up the lots. So stay tuned for the more updates, because we'll also have some trivia question rounds in between the presentations so that you can take away some more prizes home. Now I would like to invite GSS President, Mr. Vanchinathan, to present the welcome address for all of you. Please put a huge round of applause for him.
Good morning to one and all present here, esteemed judges, peers, and my dear friends. On behalf of NUS Graduate Student Society, I would like to welcome you all for the 3-minute thesis competition 2018. So this year, we had a preliminary round as well, and the participation has been really great. And the participation from faculties have also improved. This time, we have more than 8 faculties participating, the highest in history. So we are very glad that our PhD students are happy in participating and also experimenting with their presentation skills for this particular competition. I would like to welcome esteemed judges today for gracing the occasion and judging and providing valuable feedback for the contestants, and of course the participants, the 16 of them who have done a great job at the preliminary round as well. I hope they would do even better today. And of course the audience, without you, this event would not be possible as well. And on behalf of NUS GSS, I would like to welcome you all again. And we look forward to meeting you at the Singapore 3MT competition, which is going to be organized by NUS on 27th July at NUS. And students from NUS, NTU, SMU, and SUDD would be participating in this competition. So we hope that you would come down to support our students from NUS. Thank you once again. Have a great day.
So now we'll move on to the judges, like for the gods for the today's competition. So we have 6 esteemed members on the panel. We have Prof. Lim Teng Jun, who is the Vice Dean for Graduate Studies, Faculty of Engineering. We have Prof. Peter Pang, Dean of Students Office of Students Affairs. We have Professor Prahlad Vadekapat, who is Associate Professor at Faculty of Engineering. We have Dr. Tanuja Raja, who is entrepreneur in residence, entrepreneur first. We have Dr. Namala Lakshmi Tilakarta, who is lecturer at CELC. And we have Ms. Laetitya Mobek. Sorry for the wrong pronunciation. Who's also a lecturer at CELC NUS. So please give them a huge round of applause to welcome them all. Now moving on to the rules for the competition. A single PowerPoint slide is permitted. No slide transitions, animations, or movements of any description are allowed. The slide is to be presented from the beginning of the oration. No additional electronic media, example sound or video files, are permitted. No additional props, costumes, musical instruments, laboratory equipment are permitted. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes maximum, and competitors exceeding 3 minutes are disqualified. Presentations are to be spoken word, example, no poem, raps, or songs are allowed. Presentations are to commence from stage. These presentations are considered to have commenced once the presenter starts their presentation through either movement or speech. The decision of the judging panel is final. So participants, please note that you are able to see your timer on that screen. And audience and judges, you can see the timer on this screen. So without wasting any more time, let's invite our first participant, Yinn Leng Linus. And his submission title is The 3 Little Pigs Minus the Wolf. Please put your hands together for him.
Hello. This one. Let me start off my presentation by asking you to think of a time when you were on the bus. Did you notice a loud low-pitched noise? This noise, which is from the engine, is usually more noticeable when the bus is at a stop or if the bus is really old. In fact, you might be so familiar with the noise that you didn't even notice it. Well, if you didn't notice it, don't worry, because you can always try to take note of it the next time you get onto the bus. But remember to do this simple experiment without putting your earphones on. The question to ask here is that, wouldn't it be great if we could somehow get rid of the noise pollution so that the passengers would have a more pleasant ride? This is where my PhD comes in, which is to design a noise control material and to use it as a solution to get rid of the noise pollution. The 3D rendering of the prototype is shown in the slide. The construction is pretty simple, which involves 2 plastic films and 3 plastic frames sandwiched together. The size is about the same as my palm, and the idea is to arrange them side by side to form a panel. As noise passes through the panel, part of the energy is being used up to drive the blasted films into a drumming motion. As a result, the energy at the other side of the panel is reduced, making the bus ride more pleasant for the passengers. So let me use a childhood story to explain this concept. I believe everyone is familiar with the story of the three little pigs, in which the wolf hopes to have them for lunch by blowing their houses away. What I am trying to do here is to prevent the wolf from reaching the houses by putting traps along the way uphill. In this way, the wolf would waste its energy trying to stay alert of the environment or to get out of a trap it is caught in. By the time the wolf reaches the top of the hill, it will be so tired to even have the mood for lunch. Eventually, you will fall asleep and roll down the hill, not affecting the lives of the happy pigs. So in this case, the wolf can be seen as a noise energy, in which the energy is high at the start, and at the end the energy becomes low because of the traps, which can be seen as the prototype. And of course, the happy pigs can be seen as the happy passengers in the bus. So initial results show that the prototype could reduce the noise by up to 50%. And as of now, I'm trying to improve the design so that even more reduction could be achieved. Someday, I hope that we will all have a more pleasant ride home without the noise pollution in the bus. Just like how the traps will retell the story of the three little pigs. Thank you.
So our next participant is Ms. Jennifer Dodgson, and her title is The Monopoly of Legitimate Benevolence, Evaluating Leadership in China and Beyond. Guys, applause. I won't start before that. Thank you.
Hello? The origin stories that countries tell about themselves, they're not always historically accurate, but they can give us some interesting ideas about the way that they think about politics in general. So, in European origin stories, for example, they generally describe the earliest leaders as being fighters. Everyone else would pay them a bit of money, and in return they'd make sure that nothing bad happens to you. The state was basically a protection racket. And this applies, it sort of spread to all levels of leadership. And people always tend to define, in European and US systems, the leader as the guy who will protect us inside the group from them who are outside the group, whether party level, national level, federal level, whatever. And this model, which is known as the monopoly of legitimate violence, it's so fundamental in politics that it tends to be seen as being universal. In fact, it isn't. Chinese origin stories, they're different. They don't describe the earliest leaders as being fighters. They describe them as being technical innovators. So in the Chinese origin stories, you've got a guy who develops a new form of plow or a better flood defense system. And people move house to be closer to him in order to benefit from this. And this has implications for leadership in China in general. In China, a leader is seen as being a guy who provides quality of life advantages. If you want to be the leader, you've got to give something concrete to your followers. This is something that we're calling the monopoly of legitimate benevolence. And this isn't just an ancient Chinese thing, or not just a Chinese thing, in fact. It spread to Japan, and it spread to Korea, and it's also lasted in time as well. So, for example, when you've got Xi Jinping talking about his anti-corruption policy or his One Belt, One Road policy, what he's effectively saying is, all good things come via me, therefore I am the boss. He's expressing his monopoly of legitimate benevolence. What we wanted to do with this project is show that this doesn't just affect high politics and classically educated guys like Xi. It affects the way that ordinary people think about politics in their everyday life. So we took two countries that had a shared political culture based on this ancient Chinese classical philosophy, right up until the 20th century, China and Japan. And in the 20th century, they diverged completely. We wanted to find out what their citizens think is the sine qua non of leadership. So we asked them what their deal-breaker issues were. What would make them stop supporting a government that they'd previously supported? In both cases, it was the classical Chinese model that won. A government can be seen as having a sloppy foreign or military policy, and people will be annoyed about that, but they won't see it as a deal-breaker issue. On the other hand, if a government fails to provide the quality of life advantages that it has promised, in that case, it is in definitive trouble. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next participant we have is Mr. Nihar Masurkar, and his submission title is Engineering of a Superhero That Fights Cancer. Thank you.
Mic check. So how many of you all like watching superhero movies? Well, so does Anne, a 9-year-old girl suffering from breast cancer. Anne probably doesn't even know what the word breast or cancer means. All she knows is that every often, the doctor injects her with something which gives her immense pain and makes her lose her hair. Anne often asks her mother that, is there any superhero which can protect me from all these kind of tortures? Today, like Anne, we have 8.3 million people suffering from different types of cancers. Treatment of cancer can be as painful as a disease because cancer drugs not only target your tumors, but also your healthy cells, which is a major drawback of the currently available cancer treatment regimens. But what if I say that there's hope? That there will be a superhero one day which will specifically target tumors and give a new ray of hope to Anne and people like her? Yes. My PhD deals with engineering of a novel method of drug encapsulation and targeting using a protein called ferritin from a bacterium. Now, like human ferritin present in you and me, this ferritin is composed of a shell which we have engineered to break open under acidic environment. We've also used this ferritin shell for encapsulation of enzymes, and we intend to use this for the enzyme prodrug therapy. Now, an enzyme product therapy is an optimal solution to target toxic compounds to specific compartments of your body, such as a tumor. It essentially has two important components. First, a drug-activating enzyme of non-human origin, and second is a prodrug, which is not toxic by itself, but gets converted to toxic compounds only when it comes in contact with the enzyme. But remember, guys, our body is like a strong Roman Empire guarded by the immune cells. The fate of any foreign molecule that enters your body depends upon its encounter with these cells that rather destroy everything. So for its survival, we further engineered this ferritin shell, and now I'm going to call this molecule as superferritin, because superferritin has a surface of human ferritin. So once inside your body, this molecule will mimic human ferritin and escape those immune cells. Also, superferritin has the ability to distinguish between cancer cells and healthy cells and enter specifically inside the cancer cells. Once inside the cancer cell where the environment is acidic, this cage will break open and release the enzyme inside it. Injection of the prodrug now would result in the formation of toxic compounds only at the site of tumor, thereby protecting your healthy cells from the toxicity. So I hope that in future we are able to use this therapy for treatment of cancers of the boobs and balls and all of the forms, because no one deserves cancer. So I believe that superheroes are those who use their power for the boon of the society, and I really look forward to present to Anne her next superhero, my superferritin. Thank you.
Thank you, Nihar. Our next participant is Ignacio Barranco Granged, and his submitting title is Over the Way. Claps.
Hello? Okay. I want you to do an imagination exercise. imagine that you are by the sea, enjoying an outdoors day with your friends or family. Okay? Okay. Now you feel an earthquake. Sirens start to sound, the sea is retreating. What's going on? Well, as some of you may have guessed, these are some of the signs that a tsunami may be coming. Tsunamis are very large waves, usually produced by submarine earthquakes or landslides. They travel very fast, and when they reach the coast, they can be tens of meters high and very, very dangerous. So what do? Go high. Look for tsunami evacuation signs, and if you don't see any, look for a tall building or climb a mountain. The sooner, the higher, and the farther you go from the sea, the better. But how high will be the waves? How large will be the flooding? How fast will the water be flowing? Looking for answers to these questions is what I do. And to do so, I simulate tsunamis in our 36 meters long waveform. We have a 5-meter wave maker and a 17-meter water reservoir, or generation system, in one side, and a variable glass slope on the other side, the coast. We measure, among other things, the flow velocities. How fast is the wave traveling, how high it is, and how far it propagates on the slope. So, problem solved, right? Well, it is not that simple. First, which tsunami do we generate? 2004 in Indonesia, 2011 in Japan? Tsunamis are like snowflakes. They aren't two alike. And moreover, the shape of the coastline and the seabed will have a huge impact on the tsunami form in local areas. And second, tsunamis are long, very, very long. To simulate these wavelets in the lab, we would need an enormous flume or going to very small scales. We do not have such a huge lab, and going to these very small scales, on the other hand, will reduce the precision of our measurements. So, to overcome these difficulties, we have defined a range of realistic tsunami wave fronts in coastal areas based on previous events and numerical models. We are focusing on the wave fronts generation because the results suggest that the characteristics of these wave fronts will define the flooding processes. So, in summary, we are realizing physical experiments to study the relationship between the tsunami's strength and the flooding processes. This data is later used to validate numerical models that can be used to study tsunamis in precision in larger areas. With all this information, we hope to reduce the risk associated to these natural hazards and to minimize the effects on the coast. One final tip. Next time you are by the sea, check for tsunami warning signs and tall buildings or hills. It could save your life. Thank you.
Thank you, Ignacio. Our next presentation is a hat that puts a cap on cancer, and it will be presented by Shainan Hora.
Let me start by asking, have you been immunized or vaccinated against hepatitis virus? Why am I asking this? It is because the most common cause of liver infection affecting individuals worldwide is caused by a virus subtype called hepatitis B virus, or HBV. It is also alarming to know that it is the 6th leading cause of cancer-related deaths worldwide, and according to Ministry of Health Singapore, almost 6% of the Singapore population are carriers for this virus. So why does this virus infection happen? Well, studies have found that newborns who are unvaccinated at birth, or adults who can't get rid of virus from their system, slowly over the years after getting infected by this virus, develop a chronic infection. And this chronic infection is so deleterious that the normal cells of the liver start getting converted to cancerous cells, and the infection will spread to other parts of the body. So something has to be done about it. And this is where my PhD comes into picture. I am trying to find novel ways to develop a strategy to block this transformation from normal to cancerous cells by utilizing a very important hat, which is a tumor suppressor molecule present in the human body at the genetic level. So how am I doing this? So to begin with, I want you to imagine the virus as an entity housed in the liver. Now this entity has various branches, one of them being an oncogene called HBX. Now this oncogene has a tumorogenic potential. It accelerates the formation of tumor. This oncogene cooperates with other bad guys in the liver, one of them being EDD1, to bring down and to target the levels of my good guy, which is a tumor suppressor gene called TIP60. Now, this tumor suppressor gene, when targeted or inhibited, won't do its job, which is it won't be able to suppress the formation of tumorigenic or cancerous cells. So, I'm trying to target this EDD1 molecule by using targeted drug delivery approach or small molecule inhibitors. Two things will happen. Number one, when EDD1 is targeted, the bad guy won't be able to function by itself, and it won't be able to inhibit the formation of tumor suppressor. And when the tumor suppressor levels are increased or restored back in the liver, it will do its job, which is to suppress the formation of cancerous cells and tumorigenic cells, and thereby prevent its transformation to other parts of the body and affecting other individuals as well. So, by utilizing a very important strategy of using a hat with targeted drug delivery approach, I hope to put a cap on cancer and its progression and bring down the incidence of hepatitis B virus in Singapore and in general worldwide. Thank you.
Our next presenter is Ms. Chitralekha Gupta, and her submitting title is Sing to Learn.
Hello? Hello? Yeah. Have you ever tried to learn a new language but have given up? I have. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. When I was trying to learn Spanish, I asked myself, why do I keep giving up? The only answer I could get is that I really get bored and I stop practicing after a while. So what is the solution to fight this boredom and how to keep motivated? The answer lies in primary schools and foreign language learning classes, where the teachers ask their students to sing songs in the foreign language. They say that singing songs is fun, engaging, and motivating. In fact, neuroscience studies have shown that singing songs in a foreign language leads to improved vocabulary and pronunciation. Singing is not only helpful for language learning, but also for speech therapy to rehabilitate patients with speech disorders. Let me explain how this method works. The left hemisphere of the brain is responsible for speech and articulation, whereas the right hemisphere is more creative and responsible for singing. So the patients who have suffered a stroke that has caused their left hemisphere to get damaged are unable to articulate. So the therapists indulge in the abilities of the right hemisphere, that is singing, to rewire and retrain the brain for speech. This is called melodic intonation therapy. Now, for such a therapy to be effective, it takes long hours of practice. However, the ratio of the number of therapists to the number of patients is really low. In fact, much of speech therapy and language learning is hindered by lack of practice and frequent feedback. That's where my research comes in. I have developed an algorithm that can automatically detect pronunciation errors in singing. That is, it will be able to tell you which words were pronounced correctly or incorrectly when you sang a song. You might ask me, is this some sort of OK Google or Siri? Well, those are speech recognition engines that are trained on large amounts of speech data, but they don't really work well with singing voice. My algorithm takes care of the differences between speech and singing, like long duration of vowels and the pitch dynamics of singing voice, resulting in a modified system that can automatically detect articulation errors in singing. To test the validity of this algorithm, I compared the machine-generated scores with human scores and found a high correlation of 85%. So imagine, with this algorithm plugged into an app, the patients can sit at home and practice their therapy, and it will no longer be boring for you or me to learn a new language. All I need to do now to learn Spanish is to download this app and sing to my favorite song, Despacito. Thank you.
Thank you, Chitralekha. So in the meantime, this is time for some trivia questions. So the first question that we have for the audience is, in the submission title or the presentation that you just heard, the three little pigs minus the wolf, can you please tell me who were the three little pigs and the wolf? Except the presenter. Anyone? Yes. Great. So please come and collect your prize. One second. Here's the board. Moving ahead with the next presentation is Mohua Das presenting on Light Up Fatso.
Hello, hello, am I audible? Hello.
Being born into a family full of slim people, I have always faced one weird question. Why are you so skinny? It was difficult to make people realize that being skinny was never a deliberate choice. Even Spider-Man didn't become Spider-Man by his own choice. Obesity is a similar misunderstood concept, and it might surprise you, but being obese is not always a personal choice. Obesity is a growing pandemic. As of 2016, 13% of adults aged 18 and above are considered obese. Obese people are more prone to heart and liver diseases, various forms of cancer, diabetes. However, it is important to understand that genetics play a significant role in causing obesity. Variations in genes controlling appetite and metabolism can predispose us to obesity under certain dietary conditions. One such important gene is FTO, standing for Fat Mass and Obesity Associated Gene. This gene makes a protein called FTO, or let me call it FATSO, because so far it has been the strongest genetic link associated with obesity. Researchers hope that a better understanding of FATSO and how exactly it functions inside cells will help us realize the role of genetics in obesity. Now, if you understand DNA and RNA, then you'll understand that the major function of FATSO inside cells is to remove chemical modification called methyl mark from the RNA of our body. Now, how exactly the removal of this mark links to an increased body weight is still not clear. We observe that this mark can actually affect the shape and structure of our RNA. Now, when this mark is present on the RNA exists as a hairpin structure, which is more like a loop in that region. And when this mark is removed, the RNA exists as a duplex structure. Based on this finding, we designed an RNA in our lab, which consists of a methyl mark and a fluorescent molecule. We hypothesized that if the active FATSO removes this methyl mark from our RNA, it will help the RNA change its shape, as a result, activate the fluorescent molecule and make it glow. And eureka! When this designed RNA were injected inside cells, we actually saw them glow up, which was an indication of the onset of action of FATSO. And this is the very first attempt of a real-time monitoring of FATSO in action inside the cells. With this research, we hope to get a step closer in understanding FATSO better and maybe probably enable easier identification of FATSO inside cells. In future, this work will help us reveal the detailed roles of fatso inside cells and hope to develop it as a target to tackle obesity. But for the time being, along with lighting up fatso in labs, let me pass a very simple message to all of you sitting in your homes. Do not blame yourself or that big fat piece of cake you're eating if you're getting fat, because now you know who is FTO. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohua. Our next presenter is Dina Krichker, and she'll be presenting on Violent Frontiers, narrating the Spanish-Moroccan boundary in Melilla.
Hello. Okay. When Amadou, a migrant from Guinea, was sitting on the mountain on the Moroccan side of the border and was looking across the border wall to the Spanish side, he was seeing a land of freedom and opportunity opening behind that wall. No more poverty, no more hunger. He would surely find a job and provide for his sisters and mother who were waiting for him in Guinea. One night he was lucky, and he managed to jump over the barbed fence and to make it to Spain along with 200 of his compatriots. His legs and his arms were brutally injured by the border blades, but his heart was happy. His dream was fulfilling. He didn't know yet that more borders were yet to come. The border was like Hydra. You cut one head, and two heads appear. You cross one border, and more borders come. In Melilla, in Spanish town, he couldn't go to the supermarket because local people would cover their noses when he entered the shop. In Melilla, he couldn't walk around the center of the city because police, seeing his skin color, would ask him to go back to the migrant center. He couldn't perform any labor because as an illegal migrant, he was deprived of an opportunity to do so. Probably most of you don't even know where Melilla is or where Spanish-Moroccan border is. But does the space really matter when stories like this happen on all the borderscapes with uneven development? Just remember the incarcerated children on Mexican-US border that's in the spotlight of the news these days. So the question I get asked the most is, so what? Why should we care? Isn't it normal that illegal migrants are treated like this on the borders? Well, actually, if we look at the history of the border, we see that this space is not inherently violent. Instead, it was produced as violent in the last 10 years or so. So the question I ask in my research is, how come that poorly demarcated, porous boundary between Spanish town and Morocco turned into the deadliest edge of the European Union in 10 years? I spent 6 months in Melilla. I conducted 70 interviews. I did ethnographic work and archival work, and I realized that this violence in the city is closely connected to the history of the erection of the border wall. In other words, there is nothing natural about people hating each other in Melilla. Instead, it can be seen as a part of a bigger project of the state of fortification of its border and of creation of this split between the countries, of making these borders stronger, not only between the countries, but also within the society. So the state's paradigm tries to divide us into legal and illegal, into welcome and unwelcome, into dangerous and safe citizens. It creates a split, a soaring wound that later generates violence and war. So what is the solution? In my opinion, the solution lies in massive uprooting of this dualistic thinking, in stopping putting people in the boxes and in the tags, in erasing this barbed wire from our hearts. This is a long struggle and complicated one, but one that can lead us to the end of war and violence. Thank you.
Thank you, Dina, for a wonderful presentation. Our next presenter is Mr. Siddharth Deshpande, and he'll be presenting on Any Protein Can Work. A huge round of applause for him.
Hello. Should I start? Imagine you are a cancer patient and you are given a protein drug that miraculously cures your disease. But unfortunately, the disease resurfaces after a few years. The reason? A problem called protein aggregation. A protein molecule needs to fold properly in order to function. But unfortunately, due to certain circumstances, it cannot fold properly and ends up being misfolded. Such misfolded proteins come together to form a big lump of inactive drug aggregates that are harmful to your body. In response, our immune cells kill off all the drug molecules, making our body resistant to the particular drug. Since the drug is no longer effective, the disease resurfaces. About 30% of patients cured using protein therapeutics suffer from this nightmare. The medications usually given to them contain small amount of aggregates that affect the distribution, and thus the treatment becomes ineffective with time. There are many diseases like cancer that can have a very powerful protein cure, but suffer from a common problem, protein aggregation, that eventually results in increased production cost and affect the stability of the drug. But why do proteins aggregate? In the biopharmaceutical industries, these proteins are made in large quantities, usually in bacterial cells, to save production cost and time. Human proteins made in bacterial cells do not fold properly and hence end up being misfolded. It is similar to how counterfeits of Nike and Adidas goods made using cheap manufacturing techniques look exactly similar to original ones, but are full of defects. Since the proteins cannot fold properly, they cannot be used, and hence they need to be discarded. About 75% of the proteins made in bacterial cells end up as aggregated proteins. This severely restricts the spectrum of the protein therapeutics marketed by the biopharmaceutical industries. But what if I say there is a solution to the problem of protein aggregation? There is a cure which can bring a powerful protein cure in the market and thus elevate the suffering of the people. Yes, I have engineered a ferritin nanoparticle that can encapsulate these misfolded proteins and help them to fold properly. This protein is continued to be protected by the ferritin nanoparticle so that it can function properly. And when the protein is ready to be released, the ferritin nanoparticle can be broken apart in low pH so that the protein can come out and we can inject it into the body. Our initial findings have shown that more than 90% of the proteins can be folded properly using the ferritin nanoparticle. I hope that someday, using the technology, we can create such a method so that any counterfeit protein can be used as effectively as original one, because every protein can work.
Thank you, Siddharth, for your presentation. So now we are up for some more trivia questions. Who wants to win some prizes? Okay. Can anyone tell me the name of the superhero that fought with cancer? No, he's the first one to raise. Yes. Please come and collect your prize. Are we up for another question? I can't hear it. Louder. Okay. So our next question is, where is Melilla? Yes. Melilla. Yeah. Okay, please come and collect your voucher. Moving ahead with the presentations now, we have Ms. Stuti Rawat who will be talking about You Reap What You Spend. Applause.
I didn't realize it's the same one. Testing. My slide's not on this. Okay. I have a question. How much would you spend on a bag of rice? A few dollars? You could say it depends. Depends on whether the rice is long-grained, aromatic, gluten-free, hypoallergenic. But the point of the matter is that for those of us seated in this room, a bag of rice isn't something we care terribly about. Sadly, that's not the case in the rest of the world. In Papua New Guinea, in 2016, during the drought, parents were selling their children for bags of rice. And Papua New Guinea isn't alone. The map behind me represents the Global Hunger Index, with regions in darker hues, that is, dark yellow, orange, and red, representing regions with serious, alarming, and extremely alarming levels of hunger. It's no coincidence that countries with higher levels of hunger are also those with a greater dependence on agriculture. So, for instance, countries in sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia, where more than 60% of the workforce is dependent on agriculture for its livelihood. My research takes off from this nexus between agriculture and food security. I believe that public policies, specifically the decisions that governments take on how to spend their resources, affect individual lives. And which is why, in my research, I try to understand what are the factors that affect how much a government chooses to spend on the agriculture sector. And second, when governments do spend on agriculture, what impact does that have? That's where the title of this presentation comes from. You reap what you spend. Because I find that when governments in low-income and low-middle-income countries spend on agriculture, it actually helps improve food security. I also find that very specific types of government spending, that is spending on agricultural research and development activities, helps increase agricultural productivity. I arrive at these results after collecting cross-country data from various global indicators and research studies and employing a range of quantitative techniques on them. There's a famous saying, you give a man a fish, you can feed him for a day. You teach him how to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. Well-designed public policies have the power to do that. They have the power to create sustainable, productive agricultural systems which can enable the world's population to feed itself. And through my research, I hope to contribute towards that end by providing an evidence of which policies work and which don't, and an understanding of the policy-making process. I hope to aid evidence-based policy making which is relevant to the agriculture sector and which can help wipe off these dark hues in the map behind me. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuti, for a very engaging presentation. Our next presenter is Ms. Sun Min, and she'll be talking to us about the mystery from stem cells to liver cells.
Test. Well, before I start, it's World Cup, no? So tell me, how much beer do you drink each week to cheer for your favorite team? Well, if your answer is more than 8 cans, it's already too much. Alcohol overconsumption is one of the leading causes for liver diseases that affects more than 600 million people worldwide. At end stage, the only available cure is liver transplantation. But more than 70% of the patients do not have access to the donor supply. What else can we do here?
Now, reprogramming stem cells to functional liver cells, which we call hepatocytes, gave us new hope. Stem cells are the cells in our body that still possess the ability to divide and transform into different cell types, such as lung cells or the hepatocytes. And this transformation process involves many different biological molecules. By culturing the stem cells outside the human body, meaning in a 2D plate like this, we get cells very similar to the hepatocytes, and they are called hepatocyte-like cells. Well, you might wonder that why do I call them like? If we have used the same molecules here, why are they still very immature? Well, the problem is here, there is one thing that people usually forget. That is the microenvironment that also plays a role. Even under the same biological molecules, different microenvironment could lead to totally different cell behaviors. And this is what my PhD thesis came in, to try to find the right microenvironment to mature those cells using a high-throughput screening method. So I have designed a platform containing 144 different microenvironments and grow the cells on them. Using microscopes to capture the images and also further analyze the cells, I was delighted to find 4 conditions where the cells express up to 5-fold higher level of the maturation markers. And besides for direct application, this can also be further used to tune the design of the platform. With this, I hope in the future that we can see less liver disease patients, and we can help more of them to live a better life and suffer less. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sunmin, for your presentation. The next presenter that we have is Ms. Wang Zuxin, and she'll be talking about cleaning our water with electricity. So a huge round of applause for her.
Test. By 2025, there will be 2/3 of the world population facing water shortage. You may find it surprising since our globe is covered 70% by water, but only less than 1% of it is readily usable for us. And water pollution is making the situation even more serious. You will see now, most of the countries already have the wastewater treatment work. However, the conventional wastewater treatment process fails us sometimes. To better understand the problem, let's first see how we treat wastewater these days. It relies on a biological process where we use the bacteria to consume the pollutants inside the wastewater. So you see, this process heavily relies on the appetite of your bacteria. Then, you will understand if our wastewater is polluted with toxic pollutants, such as those pesticides, herbicides, antibiotics, and solvents. Definitely these kind of pollutants can upset or even kill your bacteria. Then this will leave your process out of function. But don't worry, now we have a technology to solve these situations. We can treat our water using electricity, use the electrophoretic process. And in this process, we use electricity to convert oxygen into a super strong oxidant. and this oxidant can oxidize any kind of pollutants. It's effective regardless of the type or concentration of your pollutants. We only use enough electricity that can solve it. So how come such powerful technology haven't been commercialized yet? It's because we use electricity and high power consumption make the operational cost relatively high. So here comes my research work. I've developed a more active and efficient electrode material, which is the key part of the process. With my material, now we can remove the pollutants faster, and we cut down the energy consumption by 1/3. So now with my material, these days we can clean our water with electricity at an affordable cost. Thank you.
Our next presentation is titled, What We Can Learn About Ourselves from a Tiny Worm, and it is presented by Zhao Peng. Thank you.
Test. Test. Okay. All right. It is a typical day in the hospital. All the nurses and doctors are busy helping with a young lady who is just about to give birth to a new baby. Her husband is waiting outside anxiously. He's walking alongside the corridor over and over again until he hears a loud baby cry, which relieved everyone. The baby is healthy and full of energy. Everyone feels happy. However, if you think this is a typical scenario, it is not, because every year, 8 million infants are born with severe birth defects due to abnormal embryonic development. What went wrong? Actually, we know little about what went wrong in those diseased embryos. We even know little about what went right when an embryo normally develops. One of the key events in embryo development is the diversification of cell function. Look at the cells on your skin and in each other's eyes and appreciate how different they are in their form and function. And remarkably, they all originate from that single cell. How is this process controlled? To study this process, instead of using human embryos, which may develop into someone's child, we use this tiny little worm as our model system. The worm have a lot in common with the human body. Both are hollow tubes inside with 2 openings, simple as that. This remarkable similarity in our body plan results from a similar developmental program. The single worm embryonic cell divides into 2 daughter cells with unequal size and function. How is this process controlled? Through 4 years of research, after sacrificing millions of these poor worms, we found 2 essential components. The presence of the green component, myosin, defines the cell fate of the larger daughter cell, while the absence of it defines the fate of the smaller daughter cell. The myosin in green is distributed homogeneously on the cell surface in the very beginning, just like the clouds covering the sky during a rainy day. As the red component, or A, emerges as these 2 little dots, it drives away the green component, just like the rising sun, which drives away the heavy cloud after the rain. As a result, the half of the embryo without the green component will develop into the smaller cell, while the remaining develop into the larger cell. This process is proposed to occur repeatedly in subsequent divisions to define cell function throughout worm embryogenesis. Our finding is only a small step towards the understanding of a human embryo development. Because both the red and green components can also be found in the human cells, we believe they must function in a similar way to control human embryo development, a starting point where we all came from. I hope that with our research finding, the day when every couple can have a healthy baby would be in sight, because the lessons learned from this tiny little worm would enable us to better understand and hopefully cure those errors in human embryo development. Thank you.
So my question to all of you, what is the similarity between human and worm? I don't have vouchers for it, except the participant. Yes. Anyone else? Yeah. So a huge round of applause for him. So our next presenter is Mr. Miguel Martin, and he will be presenting on development of comfortable and low energy use cities in hot climates. Thank you.
Test. Pooh, it is freezing here, isn't it? Truth be told, before entering this indoor space, I was dressed like an Australian surfer. Now look, I'm almost like a Swiss snowboarder. I guess that everybody here might have experienced a similar situation in a city like Singapore, where it is really hot outdoor and the intense use of air conditioning is made indoor. Right. Actually, this kind of situation can also be observed in many other cities around the world, like Dubai, where excessively high temperatures can be reached during summer seasons. In other words, many cities are currently facing significant issues related to outdoor thermal comfort and cooling energy use. In Singapore, for instance, this problem becomes especially severe in business areas, which consist of highly glazed office buildings surrounded by pavements covered by asphalt, an intense traffic, and the low presence of vegetation. So my PhD study intends to analyze several strategies in order to improve outdoor thermal comfort while minimizing the use of air conditioning under these conditions by considering three important factors. One is the penetration of sun rays through highly glazed facades, which is a major cause of the escalation of indoor temperature inside an office building. Another one is the augmentation of the surface temperature of roads that is provoked by the portion of sun rays reflected from building facades. Finally, I'm taking into account the heat emitted by buildings due to the use of air conditioning. In practice, the impact of these three factors on outdoor environment and the use of air conditioning can hardly be evaluated from on-site experiments. Because of this, I'm currently developing a simulation software called Amber in order to find a single and unique building technology which will be able to reduce the solar penetration, minimize solar reflections, and decrease building heat releases at the same time. From this revolutionary building technology, I would like to propose a set of recommendations to researchers, engineers, and any government agency in order to make Singapore a world leader in the development of comfortable and low energy uses in hot climates. Thank you very much for your attention.
please note that we'll have People's Choice Award for a participant, and we would really request the audience to vote for your favorite participant, and we'll be getting the sheets soon. So please don't leave the auditorium immediately as soon as we finish with the presentations. And thank you, Mr. Miguel, for your presentation. So our next presenter is Ms. Shefali Banerjee, and she will be talking about fixing the leak in dengue. Thank you.
So most of us in Singapore must have come across that poster asking us to fight dengue. It's not an uncommon sight. And my research here is also about a fight against dengue. So dengue is this viral disease that we get upon the bite of a mosquito. Over 3 billion people worldwide are at the risk of getting dengue. And 1 in every 5 patients gets hospitalized because of the severe complication called as dengue shock syndrome. During dengue shock syndrome, the patient's blood vessels, which are essentially the pipelines of our system, becomes leaky. And if left unchecked, they can bleed them dry. And unfortunately, there's no cure for this disease. So when I looked into the blood vessels in dengue patients, I found that they were under the constant attack of this army of cytokines. Now, cytokines are essentially proteins which act as our SOS signals to inform the body of an infection. But in dengue, they kept on accumulating and started damaging the blood vessels. Something very similar to what rust does to our pipes. So all I needed to do was find someone who can fight off this army of cytokines and fix the leak. I needed to find this tiny but fearless plumber who could find the leak in this maze of pipes and fix it. I needed to find our superhero, Mario. So I set up on this quest to find Mario. And to my surprise, I found that Mario was present in all of us in the disguise of microRNAs. MicroRNAs are excellent plumbers in our system. They can stop the protein production. But in dengue, one microRNA went missing. And when I introduced this microRNA back into dengue blood vessels, it could fight off that army of cytokines and foil the attack. It was able to single-handedly stop the leaks and, like Mario, save the day. In future, I would like to see if I can find ways to evolve my microRNA into a super microRNA and cure dengue shock syndrome. I hope that with my super microRNA, we can win the fight against dengue. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shefali, for the presentation. We'll wait for a while till our judges are penning down their comments. Or maybe we can have a question. So we have our next presenter here, which is Ms. Wei Xuan, and she will be talking to us about Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg. What's the hoo-ha with leaders? A huge round of applause for her.
Sorry?
Just put it around. Like this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry for the wait. Oh, is it okay if we can just hold?
It's your choice.
Yeah. Yeah. So whenever we discuss organizational success stories, we tend to attribute this kind of successes overwhelmingly to leaders' attributes. So for example, Tesla's success, you'll say, is because of Elon Musk. Facebook's success, you'll say, is because of Mark Zuckerberg. And Amazon's success, you attribute it to Jeff Bezos. So why don't we notice the efforts of the thousands of employees in these organizations as well? So second, educational institutions globally often emphasize the training of effective leaders in their academic programs. Why don't they focus on training effective followers instead? Third, human resource professionals also prioritize the presence of leadership qualities in job candidates. Why don't they focus on exceptional followership qualities instead? So what I just described are examples of how leaders are idolized in traditional and modern societies through communication in media as well as socialization since early childhood. But you have heard of the saying that behind every successful man, there's a woman. Likewise, we should embrace the idea that behind every successful leader, there should be many followers. So my dissertation focuses on elevating the importance of followers in leader-centric organizations. So there are two objectives. So first, I seek to show that followers can influence leaders' behavior, just like how leaders are seen to be influencing followers. So for example, empowering leaders who grant followers more work autonomy and resources can make them more proactive and produce better performance outcomes. Reversing the order, it's also possible that followers who are more proactive and perform better can get followers to become more, can get leaders to become more empowering too. Second, I seek to show that there's no one ideal type of leadership style. So empowering leaders, for example, who develop critical thinking and independence in followers seems like an ideal type of leadership. But some followers, as you know, may prefer leaders to take charge and tell them exactly what to do instead. So these followers, their performance may be expected to be compromised when they are paired with empowering leaders. So I like to think of leader and follower using an analogy of a key and lock respectively. Just like how a certain lock can only be opened by a certain key, certain types of followers should be more compatible and work more effectively with certain types of leaders. If we can embrace the idea that followers play a critical role in organizational and leadership processes, perhaps we can view Tesla as more than just Elon Musk, Amazon as more than just Jeff Bezos, and Facebook as more than just Mark Zuckerberg. We can finally give their employees more of their due credit. Okay.
Thank you for your presentation. And this was the last presentation for the evening, or for the morning. I've been up for too long in the morning. So I will... So, shall we have some questions? And we distribute some vouchers? Okay. I told you I don't have a voucher for that. Yes. Okay. So we have talked about numerous kinds of diseases today. Tumors, cancers, both breast and liver. So my question to all of you is, it is in two parts. First one would be, what is the leading cause of liver diseases?
I'm a participant. Can I?
Yes, but you did not present.
Alcohol?
Yes, so you get a voucher. I have another question for you. What is the leading cause of cancer death in the world? Leading cause of cancer deaths in the world. According to the presenters. One of the presenters said it, yes. No, it's a disease. What kind? Sure. Yeah, yes. Hepatitis B. You already got one. So please come and collect your Yes. Okay, before you can collect, do you know what are the causes of hepatitis B?
It's transmitted from...
No, what are the things that lead to it? Like, people who can understand.
To cause the hepatitis?
Yes. It was also discussed in the presentation. It's okay. Anyone? What are the causes of hepatitis B?
They do not get immunization.
Okay. But what causes it?
You have to press it to...
Vaccinations die. Lack of vaccination and die.
I'm looking for the specific terms used by the presenters.
A virus.
Yes, that we talked about. But
Giving a clue.
okay. Who wants to give the answer? No. Okay. So we don't have like a clear-cut answer for this. So no voucher. Let's ask the presenter. They're not around. Okay. Let's wait for the presenters. Okay, so this was our last presentation, and I would like to have some feedback from the audience on how engaging you found those sessions. Like, because we have a cross-disciplinary audience sitting here, so anyone would like to talk about their experience? Yes. Yes, the president of GSS is talking. Anyone?
I think the presentations were really good, and basically what I wanted to highlight is that I see huge improvement in the way they presented their idea with respect to the preliminary round. And at this point, I would like to thank Dr. Namala for helping out the participants and providing them valuable feedback. Yeah, I learned a lot of new things as well, because generally as PhD students we try to be focused with whatever we are doing and don't pay much attention to the others who are researching in NUS. So that way it is very, very enriching, and yeah, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate all of them because they put up a great show today.
Great. So you're giving your closing speech now?
The closing speech would be given by Zheng Wei Hao, who is the organizer of this event.
Okay. Anyone else would like to share their experience? Before I start pinpointing people.
It was a tremendous opportunity to learn a different type of areas and the research which our colleagues are doing. And second, all the presenters were quite ready to present their case. And also I have learned a lot of material and their research which is going to be with them for all times to come. I think this is a great research and the help which we are doing for the country and for the world as well.
One more person. Yes.
So I participated last year as well, and as a participant this year, I think all the participants this year were so well groomed, all thanks to Dr. Namala. She always takes care of all the participants always. And I think the variety that we had this time was so immense as compared to last time. So it's a good learning as a participant myself. Yeah, thanks.
So now is the time for voting for the participants. So all of you must have your sheets. Can I collect them? Please fold them. Yeah. Okay. You can go out and collect one. Okay, you can collect your sheets. You have the sheets? Spare sheets? Okay. I'm sorry, can you borrow from someone? Okay. Some people don't have the...
Yeah, he's helping.
Here? Okay. Okay, sure. Okay. Cute.
What do we need to do with them?
I will just announce that. So we will be breaking for lunch in a short while, and after we do that, we'll be back for prize distribution ceremony and lucky draw. Let's collect that after lunch.
So also for those people who didn't get a note, so the vote, please come here and collect it. Those who came late or so early that I wasn't here.
Give them like 30 minutes and it will get delayed.
Yeah. So we break for lunch now and let's assemble here at 12 sharp so that we can have the prize distribution ceremony as well as lucky draws. Lunch is served outside. A very warm welcome to all of you after your scrumptious lunch. So before we go ahead with the prize distribution, we like to acknowledge the participation of all the participants who have put in a lot of effort to make these wonderful presentations that we all witnessed this morning. So firstly, a huge round of applause for all the participants. Next, I would like to request our judges and panelists to say a few words about today's 3MT competition.
Well, I think I need to congratulate all the participants. They are on the job very well done. I really enjoyed it. Sorry I came late. The event was on my calendar. I didn't check my calendar until 10 o'clock in the morning. But the competitors that I did see were very well prepared, spoke very smoothly, and I didn't know that I was related to a worm, but now I know. Congratulations to all of you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I was thinking about myself. My PhD days, will I be able to really do a 3-minute pitch now, or I didn't have that opportunity. That's a very interesting opportunity I see. Many times the novelty or innovation or whatever you contribute to the frontiers of human knowledge is a prisoner of words, thesis, publications. And this is an important opportunity to really share that with the public, to the layman. And some of the big guys are here. Maybe we should really incorporate that into our PhD thesis presentation as a must. A couple of things I notice is that some of you could really empathize the ethnography aspects. You could connect as well. So the worm and on Moroccan border, the public policy and Jenku, all those things were really connecting to us. We could feel it. But there are certain factors some of you highlighted, and some others I could not see that. And what kind of a pitching is this? Is it for what kind of audience the pitching is expected to be? In typical elevated pitches, you try to target towards, say, investors or the consumers or distributors or whichever you want to. But here that element was not clear to me in the first place. So you can highlight a research. What is the impact of that on the humanity and how many will be affected? How many will be saved, or you need to do more? On those aspects, some of you could really put across, but in many others it was missing. So that was one point which I do not know whether your organizers can influence, but position the pitches in some specific aspect or baskets of connection between you to the audience. If that is possible, that will be very interesting. But by and large, it was a very interesting experience. I enjoyed it, and I had a very interesting conversation with the last presenter during the lunch, because I really like the leadership and the follower. Followers can really shape the leadership, and I really enjoyed it, and I faced it, and I would like to do more and know more about that particular aspect with you. Thank you very much.
Well, so let me first say that it's a real honor for me to be here, right, to witness all these great presentations. So Prof. Prahlad asked, he was reflecting on his own, PhD days and whether he could have done this or not. I can tell you that as a PhD student, I could never have done this. Never. It was completely beyond me. That I can tell you. So I want to congratulate all of you for doing such a wonderful, wonderful job. Now, I hope the clapping is not for my inadequacy as a PhD student. Yeah. Okay, so for this kind of competition, basically you need to do three things. First, tell people why what you have done is so important. Number two, tell people that what you have done is directly relevant to them, right? So one is about, importance to the whole world and humanity and so on and so forth. And the second is really about the connection with each individual. They are different. And the third is to tell people why what you have done is very difficult. It cannot be done by just anyone. Can only be done by me. I'm serious. When you go to, you are going to work and you will go through your job interview and all that, the third one is important. All right? And this is probably what I find not everyone has, hit the nail on the third one. Huh? So I want you to pay attention to the three things that you need to do. But overall, I really think that everyone has done a great job, and I really could not have done it. If you will allow me, and I hope you take what I'm going to say next in the right spirit, this is a competition. And in a competition, what you want to do is to impress people. And how you dress makes a difference. Okay, so I hope you think a little bit about that. And when you, for example, go for your job interview, you will also pay attention to how you present yourself. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. There's not a lot that I can say that the judges haven't already said, but I want to start off by saying that I completely enjoyed every single one of your presentations. I think I'm probably the only one in the lineup of judges here that has actually been up on that stage a long time ago doing this 3-minute thesis competition in Australia. And I know firsthand how incredibly difficult it is to condense your thesis into 3 minutes. And on top of that, I think as PhD students, we get really bogged down with the stats and the hypothesis and doing the day-to-day running of your work. You sometimes forget that there needs to be an element of storytelling in it, which is really important. And I think those of you that had that little aspect to your presentation, really, it made a difference to us because we could follow along, we could relate to it. What Prof said earlier about showing how you're the only one that can do it and how important your work is extremely important. So I'm actually part of an accelerator program here that takes in PhD students who wants to convert their research and make it into a profitable business. And oftentimes you're sitting in front of consumers and VCs and they don't know anything about science. You can talk to them for 30 minutes about your thesis and give them all the data in the world, but they're never going to understand it. So storytelling is super important. Congratulations to all of you. And I think it's great that you took this chance and jumped up on stage and did your thing.
Okay, so I'm not going to take much of your time because many of the contestants have already got feedback from me and had some interaction with me, so you all know what I thought about your initial first round of videos that you submitted for the preliminary rounds of this competition. I just wanted to say that I can see incredible amounts of improvement, so I could see where you started and where you ended up in terms of how you decided to either simplify or complexify your research to the appropriate level, because I think that's one of the massive challenges that you have. You have to have the appropriate level of complexity, so because your audience is a non-specialist but expert audience in their own fields, but then you also have to make it relevant and interesting and applicable at the same time. So another thing that I just want to point out, adding to the judges' comments, is the actual presentation in terms of how you pitch across to your audience in terms of style. So I know the challenge of getting up on that stage and really projecting your personality is a particularly difficult one, and I just want to say well done, because I could really see that coming out. And the bigger the audience gets and the bigger the auditorium gets, the more difficult it is to really get your presentation and your engagement across to your audience. And I think you guys did a fantastic job, because I really couldn't tell how that was going to be from the video format to this, okay? So really well done on that. It was incredibly enjoyable. I was thinking I already know your research so well to a certain extent, watching it again, but I was absolutely mesmerized, okay? So well done, guys. I'm really proud of you. And I'm just going to let my colleague Letitia give you a few comments because she's seeing it fresh for the first time. So I'll just pass it on to her.
Okay, well, first I just want to say congratulations. I had no idea what to expect when Namala invited me to come here. And I had very fresh eyes, and I was quite worried that it would be quite difficult to follow all these range of disciplines and at PhD levels. So in that respect, you all did a fantastic job, because I feel like I understood everything that you talked about. I was quite fascinated by the different challenges that you have in the different disciplines. How do you put across the impact and the significance of your study in science? Seemed to me perhaps easier to do than in policy and in business. So I think that's maybe in the future something to consider, the type of focus that you have to take according to the discipline that you are presenting. And apart from that, I'll just say congratulations and good luck for the next step.
Thank you for your valuable feedback. Now we'd like to distribute some token of appreciation in form of certificates to all the participants. So I would request Jingwei Hao to come and present the certificates. So Ang, Yinn, Leng, Linus, please come on stage and collect your certificate. Chitralekha Gupta. Miguel Martin. Ignacio Barranco Granged. Sun Min. Shefali Banerjee. Nihar Masurkar. Mohua Das. Jennifer Dodgson. Wang Zuxin. Siddharth Deshpande. Zhao Peng. Dina Krichker. Shainan Hora. Stuti Rawat. I would request all the participants to assemble near the stage because we'll soon be having a group photograph as well. Wei Xuan. Can we have all the judges and the participants on stage for a group photograph? Yeah. High standards. Okay. I would request judges to be on stage because we'll be announcing the winner soon of the 3-minute thesis. So are you guys excited? I cannot hear it. Still can't. I won't announce till you give me a nice roar. You can clap. Okay. So we'll firstly announce the People's Choice Award, and it goes to, drum roll. So it goes to Dina Krichker. Her title was Violent Frontiers, narrating the Spanish-Moroccan border in Melilla. So for the people who are the winners of the first, second, third, and fourth prizes were excluded from the People's Choice Award. Yeah. So Okay, yeah. So the, yeah. There are 4 in total. Okay. So we'll go in the reverse order. Okay. So okay. Okay. So we have our third runner-up. Drum roll. Nihar Masurkar. Our second runner-up is, drum roll, Ms. Stuti Rawat. Her thesis was, "You reap what you spend." Our first runner-up is Ms. Shefali Banerjee. And her presentation was on fixing the leak in dengue. Okay, now it's the time for the final winner. The winner is winning $500 of cash prize, a trophy, and a chance to represent NUS at the Nationals finale at Singapore 3MT. Drum roll. Okay. And the winner is, guesses? Yes. So the winner is Mr. Zhao Peng. And his thesis was what we can learn about ourselves from a tiny worm. Congratulations to all the winning participants. Now we have time for some lucky draw. Yes. Okay. 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 5 vouchers and we'll be giving out 5 lucky draws. You have to get it signed. Who's going to pick it up? Okay. So let's see. The first lucky number is 035. So please show your ticket to claim your prize. Okay. Next number.
Oh.
Okay. You need to. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You need to sign. So the next number is 008. Yeah, thank you. Why don't you pick up the next one? Sorry. The next number is
052.
It's mine. No.
So you're not getting.
Yeah, I am not getting. Sorry. Next, guys, it's my number. Next.
027.
027. Yes. You finally get the voucher. Yeah. Why don't you help us pick up the next number?
Sure. I'm holding two other numbers in my hand, so like.
032. Hmm?
Everything is in the same way.
I don't know. People are not shaking the numbers out. 032. Sorry. Okay.
Is it the final price?
I have two more to go. If you're giving me one, that's okay.
061.
061. Yay. Okay. Thank you. Please. So now we have the last voucher. Anyone wants to come and pick it up? Why don't you pick it up? Yeah, you were not allowed to see. 018. Do we have 018 here? No. We're not playing +1, -1. No. 018. No. Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else? Okay. 042. Why don't you share the price later? Thank you. Okay. Okay. So this was the last voucher. Now I'll request Jiang Wei to come up on stage and give the closing remarks. A huge round for him. He's the main organizer for the event. I'll not pass the mic till I hear more claps. He put this entire thing up.
Yeah, so this competition is going to finish, and I want to thank all of you again. Without your support, it wouldn't be such a success. So, give applause for both of us and you again. Besides this competition, we have Singapore 3MT, which would happen on 27th of July, and I'm looking forward to see you again. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you so much for making it today. We hope you had a great time, and we hope that you join us for the Singapore 3MT to support the winners from today. So they would be representing NUS. So this competition is between NUS, NTU, SMU, and SUTD. So we hope that you come and support these students. And there's going to be a similar People's Choice Award as well on that particular event. And the winner will represent the university, will represent Singapore in the Asia Pacific 3MT competition. So do join us for that, and hope to meet you soon in future events organized by NUS Graduate Student Society, the sole organization serving postgraduate students for the past 31 years. Thank you.